Welcome back to Telltale Books. This is a special edition of our videos tonight because of a kind of special occasion. Now, I normally don't mark these occasions because I'd rather focus on the life of authors, and so I'll often post on our social media when there's a birthday of somebody that's worth noting. But in this case, there's something else going on that I wanted to check out, and I wanted to do a video about because I think it's really great. And that is the fact that April 5th, which is today, the day I'm filming this and the day I'm putting this video on YouTube evening, April 5th is the date when Manly Wade Wellman died. On this occasion, actually it was yesterday, they put up the pre-order notice. A really great press, small press called Hafner Press, who published all the complete short stories of Jack Williamson in, I think it was 8 or 9 volumes. They announced for pre-order and are going to be shipping in May a complete collection of the John the Balladeer stories by Manly Wade Wellman, which is probably his most famous series of stories. Okay, so I saw this book. It looks like a really beautiful book. I've heard a lot about these stories. They're well-loved stories. They're fantasy stories. And so I wanted to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to pre-order a copy. So what I did is I went online and first of all found out what was the very first John the Balladeer story. It's a story called "O Ugly Bird," and it was published in the December 1951 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. And this story has become quite well known among science fiction and fantasy fans. And of course launched what was a very, very long series of both short stories and novels about this character. Now, Manly Wade Wellman actually started his career way back in the late 1920s. I think it was 1927 or something like that. He published his first short story, and he published a variety of genres, but he published a lot of science fiction in the early science fiction pulps back in the 1930s. I think he published in Weird Tales. Pretty sure he published in Unknown with John Campbell. So he wrote a lot of genre fiction that wasn't part of this John the Balladeer series. But in 1951, he wrote this one short story that became very well loved and launched a series that would go until the end of his life. He was still publishing John the Balladeer stories in the magazines in the early 1980s, before he died, I believe in 86, if I'm not mistaken. And now the Hafner Press book is going to collect everything. Big book. So it's pricey, but it's a big book. It's thick. There are complete novels inside of this, plus all the short stories. So I wanted to read, because I had never read any of these John the Balladeer stories, and frankly I haven't paid too much attention to Manly Wade Wellman through my life so far. And I thought this is perfect time to correct that so that I can make a decision whether or not I want to pre-order a copy. So I found a PDF of the December 1951 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and I read the story. O Ugly Bird. The basic plot of the story is, of course, John the Balladeer. He's kind of a wandering guy. He plays the guitar and sings and tries to get people to, give him food or whatever they will. And he wanders around through the Appalachians. And he comes to an area. Now he says he avoids like cities and towns because they don't usually respond to him. The rural people usually will respond to him and help him out and listen to his songs and stuff. And he has a guitar which he has steel strings on, as opposed to ordinary guitar strings. So he comes to this area and he's talking to the people and finding out that there's this guy lives in the area, and when he shows up, all the people just give him whatever he wants. And the reason is because he has some kind of magical power that if he doesn't get what he wants, he will destroy those people. Not usually killing them, but like in one instance, he took away the voice of a woman, so she couldn't ever talk again for the rest of her life. And so he just mooches off of everybody because he doesn't have to work. He doesn't have to have money. And one thing in particular, he's not much to worry about because he's physically kind of a cripple from the description, very thin and whatever. Very thin and very ugly, but there's this bird called an ugly bird, which is somehow magically attached to him and carries out his bidding and attacks people. So John the Balladeer, he decides he's going to do something about this. The story is very remarkable for a couple of reasons. Being a short story, the average reader today, I expect, would read this one story and want more because it's too short. You don't learn enough about what's going on in this fantasy Appalachian world where there's this magic. You don't learn enough about the magic. You don't learn enough about John, but it's a short story. He sticks to the point and doesn't get into all the background details. So you might want more, but of course there is more. The whole series of stories and novels, read through it and you'll get the whole world and the whole character and everything. But what's really remarkable about this story and the whole series is something I've been thinking about, how so much of fantasy is either derived from Lord of the Rings or derived from Conan. Now, this being published in 1951, of course, it predates Lord of the Rings. Not The Hobbit, but it predates Lord of the Rings. I think the first book of Lord of the Rings came out in either 51 or 52. So this story is being written at a time when Lord of the Rings couldn't have influenced him. Wellman would have probably known the Conan stories very well. But Wellman chose the folk tales of Appalachia as a springboard for his story, O Ugly Bird, and eventually the whole series. He took the popular folk tales of Appalachia and used that as the basis for this whole series. So there, right off the bat, you have something that's, very American, very different from Conan or Lord of the Rings, and very unique in fantasy, at least at the time. Offhand, I don't know of anybody that's imitated this, but at the time, nobody had done this. This was brand new. This was fresh. And that's what I love about it, is it is so different from most of what's being done today in fantasy. And the other really great thing about this story is just the writing. Very well written for a short story, well characterized, and the world is well built for a short story. He sticks just to the details necessary to tell this story, but gives you enough that you really do get a sense. You do get a sense of who John is. You do get a sense of this other guy, of what he's all about, and you do get an atmosphere, in particular about the guy and about the bird. You are going to get this creepy atmosphere coming through in the descriptions. It's written so well. So this was not something I was planning. It's something I did spur of the moment, and I was impressed, and so I went and I pre-ordered my copy, and I hope you will too. Hafner Press is a small press, but they do some really excellent books, and I hope you'll go on their website and pre-order this book and keep them in business. Keep supporting them, because they're publishing some wonderful books. And of course, I'm giving this top tale status. Oh Ugly Bird is now another one of our top tales. Emily hasn't read it. I don't know if she would like it or not. I don't care. It's a top tale anyway. Executive privilege. So I would recommend this to anybody who's looking for something, for a more American style of fantasy and something based on American folk heritage, and something that is really different from the other fantasy stories that you've been reading. I would seek out O Ugly Bird, or I'm sure any of the rest of the John the Balladeer short stories and novels. I recommend it all. I'm going to recommend the whole series. I feel safe doing that because, like I say, this series has been very well loved by fantasy aficionados for a lot of years. And so who am I to say that they're wrong? I'm not going to. I'm going to side with them and say this is a great fantasy series and worth your time to get some kind of volume. I mean, there's paperbacks of this out there. You can buy paperbacks. You can probably download a lot of the books as ebooks right now. And like I say, I found O Ugly Bird in a PDF of the December 1951 issue of Fantasy and Science Fiction. You can get it there online. Read O Ugly Bird for free. So lots of ways you can get a hold of this, and lots of ways you can experience it. I'm recommending you do that if you think this sounds interesting to you. And I'm going to read the rest of it when I get my copy of John the Balladeer from Hafner Press, and enjoy it, and probably report back here on, if not all of it, at least some of it. And I hope you'll join me for those. Till then, like us, subscribe to us, leave comments. Have you read John the Balladeer? What do you think? And I'll see you again.